so short. Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me? Good morning, everyone. Just a little bit of a late start here, trying to get organized. We're a three-person, oh, Katie, you are here, three-person team. So I'd like to thank everyone for coming today, October 4th, which is known as Sisters in Spirit Day across the country. And we have an agenda with some guest speakers, and we'll have an activity after the guest speakers with making some felt dolls to hang on these trees. We have boy and girl dolls. And what else was I going to say? My brain. After that, we'll be serving lunch. We've made soup and bannock, and we've got some fruit there, so hopefully everybody will enjoy that. We're going to start the program with a song, and we have two of our own NAN staff who are going to open us up with a song, and we have Carissa Machano and Kim Hillman. If you could come up, please.
We would like to invite anybody that knows the Strong Woman song to come and sing and send this big, strong song out into the universe. So please come and join us. Good start.
Thank you for that. That was beautiful. Next on the agenda, we have our elder that works with the Women's Initiatives Department and the Women's Council at NAN. She is actually a member of the Women's Council and serves as our elder and guides the department and the council in most everything we do, is Terry Fiddler. So if she could come and start us off with a prayer.
because I think everybody got a candle in front of you. I'd like to invite everybody to come and stand around in front with the candle. Bring your candle. It's supposed to light up. Migeze what's doing or Sonia Kamego, Devo, Atik Doden, Kinaklism, Vegemite, Kenanak Mamen Manito, Nogum Oya, Ewab Megwek, Nogum Wagani Boyak, Emini Goek, Gabbage, Kabak Sendamak, Gabon, it is Keze, Kagwits Magit Manito, Nogum, Kagze Bayat, just when Megwek, Gabbage, anyway. Miigwech manito, kinanak mego nogam Kagze Bayat, where Gajaga Boyang, Ekopas Nagozani, no and Gabbage, Ekopatendamag, Nogam Kagze Bayat. Et pigwenda manga bit kagskagwang pigwenda mon. Kaskenda monge. Mitte seke. Kagwets me gwen manito nungom. Gabits to min sang maskoziwen. Ego ve gabits wat in igan geon zina biang. Chopan de sang mas se agishaka. Ego ge gabits. Tega noine misang. Oegab matuang ki maus ni noine non de ziang egon tot de mat. Dean kindas kena gevo nekas stoin making. Ita seja gots menanongom. Uega wase agat kuna man. Mat bin de geste man de naning. Magen mam nenjagan nang. Kena gegon kato tamang. Epeneman ta going on gagin. We thank you, Creator, for being with us today. We ask you to give us that hope, that faith, and that light that sometimes we walk in the dark. And we ask you, Creator, to give us that strength, that comfort as we journey on this road that you have given us, the difficult road sometimes. But I know that you're with us every step of the way, guiding us in a good way. We just know garbage to mato.
Just like to leave it on, we have a moment of silence now, just in honor of all of our people who have been taken too soon. You can all return to your seats. Yeah. So, as I stated earlier, or maybe I didn't, my name is Loretta Shishiquin. I'm the Director of Women's Initiatives here at NAN. And then we're a very small department. There's only 3 of us. So we also have Jamie Lee Wanakamek in the back, who's our policy analyst, and Chris Machano, who is the coordinator for our department. The 3 of us tried to do our best to work on pretty much a shoestring budget. So today's lunch has been catered by us. So any complaints? Take them out there. No, just kidding. And today's a special day. There's a few of them on the calendar. Every day there's something. There's National Dog Day, National Son and National Daughters Day just passed recently. October 4th has been designated as Sisters in Spirit Day, specifically to honor and remember the Indigenous women, girls, Two-Spirit, gender diverse people. And here at NAN, we're now starting to expand, unfortunately, sadly, the demographic that's covered to include our boys and our men as well, because we do know that, they are going missing and being murdered at an alarming rate, just as our women are. So we are respectful of that, cognizant of that, and going forward, we're going to try and, make sure that that's a statement in everything that we do. And before we get started with our speakers, I just wanted to make note that we do have a table there, I'm sure most of you have seen, with just a fraction of some of the people, our people from the NAN territory who have been taken too soon over the years, some going back to the 1950s, and that's just a fraction. There's so many more, and we're working on creating a database, because there isn't one there isn't one all-encompassing database for those the people that have gone missing in our country over the years. And I also wanted to mention too that we have Terry Fiddler here as our elder. And if anybody today is triggered by anything, have a hard time, with any emotions that might come up, Terry is here to assist. So, just let me or one of the staff or Terry herself know, and we'll make sure that, she's there to assist you. So our first speaker, I'd like to call up Deputy Grand Chief Anna Betty Achnapanishkam. She holds the Women's Initiatives portfolio at NAN. And she, aside from that, is just on a personal level, very strong supporter. I know this file holds a place in her heart for sure. So it's because of her that we do these sorts of events and the work that we've been doing. So if you'd like to come up, Deputy.
Wache Meswer. Memengus at so kind of squandish na cousin. Magazine do them. I'm very honored to be with you all today. Thank you all for coming here today. I introduce myself in my spirit name, and the name that I have on my identification is Anna Betty Achnibanashkam. And I serve as a Deputy Grand Chief for Anishinaabe Nation. And it is a role and a responsibility that I'm very, very honored to have. And I'm very thankful that I've been given this responsibility to address the issues of our missing and murdered First Nations people. It's been 4 years now since the calls for justice, that report was released, and prior to that, I raised my hand to the families who took to the streets because it was them, you know, by organizing such vigils as this, gatherings such as this, and taking to the street with their marches that, you know, that forced the government to call an inquiry. Like it would took about 15 years for that to happen. And, you know, I have stood with families all across this country. I have been on various walks to support our missing and murdered First Nations people. And I prefer to say people now because we have to be inclusive of our men and boys as well who have been murdered and who have gone missing. And also our gender diverse peoples. You know, they deserve that respect, and they also deserve that advocacy that we need to have. And so when we do these events, like that is how we're always going to deliver our campaigns, is to ensure that we also honor like all peoples. I've on over there, we have pictures of our loved ones. And, you know, and I was telling Loretta and Terry, you know, if we had, and Miranda, that if we had collected like all the pictures of all our loved ones who were taken from us, we would probably need about 6 of those tables. And it's very sad that we continue to represent the highest rates of violence inflicted on women and girls. And someone asked me a hard question once, why is that? You know, first of all, there's the traumas that we endured through the process of colonization. There is an Indian residential school system that fractured our family systems and our protective mechanisms. There's the 60 Scoop, which created that process, and we still continue that, where the child welfare system still has a lot of our children under their care, and those systems are you know, still that Euro-Canadian policies and procedures in there, what does not, which excludes that wraparound, that family unity system. And those are things we need to change, and very slowly it is. And we also need to have more of our people supporting, you know, our campaigns, are supporting our voices. You know, we need to have more of our men come and support us when we have these type of events, when we go and sit in that courtroom when one of our sisters or one of our brothers is taken. We need to have more people come to those courtrooms. Not only the men, but we need to have more women too. I'm sure some of you have been in that courtroom before to watch a trial. And when you look around, there's very little people. And we need to you know, increase our numbers to support each other. We really need to do that. And in the justice system, which sometimes I sarcastically refer to as the injustice system, and I feel that it's warranted for me to say that. You know, when we're those cases of Barb Kentner and the Bushy case, you know, where cases were against those that took their lives, they were treated with such leniency. So what does that tell us? To me, that's telling me that my life is not valuable, that my granddaughter, my daughter, your mother, your son, your father, that our life is worth less. That's what that system tells me. And over there, those loved ones that are there, I have a special connection to each of them. I have I'm either related to them or I met their family member. Later on, you're going to hear from Alex Lawson's family, because Alex is still missing today. It will be 1 year on November 27th. You're going to hear from Corey's mom. Corey's life was taken November 1st, and to this day, and that was right over there, just on the other side of town. And still, no one has been held responsible for his death, for his murder. Marie, who happens to be my niece, she was one of the individuals whose death was reinvestigated as a result of the broken trust report. And in that document, it was revealed, and in the reinvestigation, it was revealed that the Thunder Bay police failed to protect her as a deceased person, that they did not do a proper investigation, even though there was some witnesses that had came forward and said, that they saw this or heard this, and they were never properly questioned. And some of the photos that were taken to collect evidence were not properly done and properly documented. And I remember when I met with the Thunder Bay police, and they were, they really fooled me. I really thought that they were sincere when and were trying to help me and help financiers, because at that time I was asked to be the family liaison. And I also had wanted to have another young woman's picture there. But her mom has has passed. She passed in March from COVID, and she used to come in in her wheelchair, and she would tell me, "Don't let people forget about my daughter." And I don't have permission to say it right now, so I'm unable to say her name. But there are so many where families have told me, like, please do not forget about my child. And I carry that responsibility, like, seriously. And I need people like Terry, and I need people like you to, for us to stand together. And there's one picture of a young woman there, Autumn Shaganash. Autumn has been missing since June 9th. She went missing from Barrie, Ontario. To this day, she is still missing, and her family continues to search. And it's very frustrating when we don't have the resources, financial resources, to support our families the way we should be. And it's a constant battle, and that we need to keep going to our federal government and our provincial government to say, you know what, we need to have more resources to be able to help the families' financiers, to help the families find their loved one. We're always having to beg. we need a case of water over here to help the searchers. Even for that, we have to beg. And that shouldn't be. So there is still systemic racism when it comes to the justice system where our people are concerned. So I think if I was to share other things, I would probably be here talking for a long time, because this is something that I feel very strongly about. And this is something I don't only do this on October 4th or on February 14th, or the other days that signify and commemorate what we need to do here, but I encourage you to participate in those when we do. And if you want to come to any court hearings or stuff like that, I encourage you to, if you're aware of them, to get others to go. Because it makes me really sad when I have gone to some courts and then I see like just two parents sitting there by themselves. Like we need to support each other more, and we need to speak out. So make every day a day where we can call for justice and advocate for to end the cycle of violence that our people endure every day. Chimingwich, Machi.
Thank you, Deputy. Next, I'd like to call upon Acting Detective Sergeant Carly Drews, and she is the supervisor of the Survivors Assistance Support Program, which is part of the Anishinaabe Police Service.
Good morning, everyone. First, wanted to thank Loretta for inviting us here today. While it's not a happy reason to get together, we have done just that. We've gathered to give people voices and tell the stories of people who can't tell their stories themselves. Like Loretta said, my name is Carly Drews. I've been actually a police officer for Anishinaabe Police Service for 15 years. 8 years of that has been spent in the court division. And like Anna Betty is discussing, we're not seeing justice. So me being a part of SASP now, which is the Survivor Assistance Program, we're providing far more than just a phone call of support. What we do is we're actually mandated by the government to provide immediate assistance, meaning a survivor has been victimized in a sexual or domestic manner, and that comes over to our program, and one of our workers gets in touch with them within 24 hours. We're calling them, we're emailing them, however we need to contact them, we're in contact. We're providing them with any services that they require. If it's something small, like just simply a phone call and we're talking, or if they need counselors, if they need to be set up in other ways, if they need to come to a city or they need to be at a shelter, they need clothing, if they need diapers for their children or food, we're getting those things done. The importance of SASP and how far we can reach out with this program. I don't know if a lot of you have met Alana Morrison, but this is her project. This is her baby. This is her life work. She saw that we as a police service, we're charging people, we're doing all the paperwork that we can do as police officers, but then our job is done. We hand the file over to somebody else, and it's somebody else's problem now. But we found that there's a need where we can track it. We can have more personal care for the people that we serve. We serve 34 communities, and that's fine that we can charge people and try to seek justice that way. But justice doesn't always look like a person being convicted of a crime. Justice is more than that. So our program, we have social workers that track people from immediate contact, the day of victimization, and we follow them through as long as they need us. There's no timeline on how long we're going to be with our survivors. And I will touch on that too. We call them survivors and not victims. In policing world, we call people victims when something has happened to them. We're not giving people's power away like that. We're calling them survivors. They have survived something traumatic, and the person that has victimized them or traumatized them does not take their power away. We're still strong people, although something has happened to us. That doesn't take away our power. We've done a lot actually for our survivors, but we're forever programming. We're thinking up new ideas all the time of preventative measures. We are working with the OBP in regards to human trafficking prevention, initiatives in that direction, because we know a lot of our community members are not so much being trafficked through the north, but they're coming to hubs and things are happening that way. We're looking at expanding beyond just providing support to our survivors. We want it to be preventative measures now too. Yeah, I think that's probably it. I go on tangents because we're just so passionate about our work. Being a police officer, I, of course, am passionate about serving justice and getting bad guys, but it isn't just about that. And now I'm on the other side of it where I'm working with the survivors, and you get rejuvenated and think of all the things that you can give back and that you can do. You just have, it's endless. Like I could just chat with you forever about all of my ideas, but I just thank Loretta for having me, and I'm honored to be here, and I thank you everyone for listening.
Thank you. Yeah, our department has actually started working prior to Alana leaving. She only left at the end of August. We have met with the SAS program a few times. So we're definitely interested, and we have collaborated and want to continue that collaboration down the road on those preventative measures that she mentioned, like education and human trafficking, and just, raising awareness overall. So thank you for being here today. Next, I will call upon Irene Linklater, who is the Executive Director of NAN Legal. If you wouldn't mind coming up, sharing a few words.
Bonjour. Hani noche. Ako yung gaya bajito na gagawin na goyan na sinabi mo. May mawenda naman kichigegon. Ningo kwendas de kanigo. Na may dotem. Bigan siya kami ng donji. May gwada siya wikwadang thunder bain deji aya. Deji damen nuijiwagan. May mawenda naman Irene Linklater is my name in English. And where it comes from on the Linklater part is my spouse, Ron Linklater, whose family came from Couchiching First Nation, and I come from Pikanjigam. My family name is Comber and Mackay, and we're the family of people that come from Little Grand Rapids and Barons River, the Barons River and Anishinaabe River system through the two provinces of Ontario, Manitoba. So I've got a spread of family, and somehow I ended up here with some of my siblings going to residential school at St. Joseph's at the corner of, is it Franklin and Arthur Street, there for 6 years. And that was the beginning of my learning about Western systems and the injustices that have plagued us for generations. And so before I get into that part of it, I'd like to just say that I've been here 4 years now back, working as the executive director for Anishinaabe Aski Legal Services Corporation. And that it's been coming back in full circle for me in many ways, because I lived here before, after residential school. I worked at the Thunder Bay Indigenous Friendship Center as a court interpreter. And that is where I saw many injustices within that system. Not ever thinking that I would go to law school. I thought I was going to be a teacher. So I went to Lakehead University, and I did work with children that were boarding here, coming to school, public school, and also high school coming in from the north, called Territorial Students Program, funded by the government for those who were not on reserve. And it was parallel to the Anishinaabe education counseling system that my brother Howard was a counselor on that program. And you may not know him, but he's now chief of Poplar Hill, next door to Pekanjigam. And why am I telling you all of my background is because I wanted to hopefully share a message to honor the murdered and missing Indigenous women and girls and diverse peoples, as well as young children and boys and young men who have experienced the same traumas as mentioned by Deputy Grand Chief Anabedi. And that going to residential school, we were separated from our siblings, and that we had to live in two separate lives, basically, throughout the years that we lived at the school. But my foundation for me was my family. Having family to go home to every summer, July and August, and being able to speak the language, to go out on the land and to be with my siblings and both my parents, who lived to be in their late 80s. So many children did not have that experience of the foundation connection to family as I did. And so that's what I attribute my strength and my resilience and my opportunities for looking for change. And as I think about the murdered and missing Indigenous women and girls and the action report for action, and looking at what has not been done in the past 4 years, it's a difficult subject to speak to, in the sense of it's not a subject. These are our lives, our sisters in spirit, for those who passed long before I was born, to the time that I was in residential school, to the time that I lived in Thunder Bay afterwards. At that time it was called Fort William, Port Arthur, knowing that our friends and girls were missing and their mothers were missing back in those days, and that nothing was being done to look for them. And that we know that the systems are all the systems were broken in the context of protecting us, because as we all know, and not to repeat what has been said many times in many forums like this, it's the assimilation and the genocide that was put into policy and law to get rid of us, take our language, take our families, amalgamate us, basically assimilate into Western society. But our resilience has kept us going, in that we find strength from each other and in sisterhood and brotherhood, and in the diversities of our families that we've come to acknowledge and accept, that we had accepted long before laws and policies said that it's okay to be different, and that everyone has rights under the Constitution, under the Charter of Rights. That was a long battle to look at the recognition of our Charter rights and Indigenous, Aboriginal and treaty rights in the Constitution. So the laws have not been our friend. And I did go to law school as well. So I've been practicing law for 31 years, not in the courthouses, but practicing law and advocating for our rights in treaty recognition and justice. So my focus now is to look at justice and looking at treaty justice in the legal and law system. And hopefully that if our laws are able to be designed and developed and implemented by us, from our source of our inherent rights and teachings and laws that we had before. And they still are alive today, many of which are now becoming to the forefront across the country, because I'm trying to keep abreast of all that's going on across the country. And that at this present time, we allow and give permission to the Western court system to practice law in our territories of NAN. And that is what is happening today. It's just not being recognized that that is so. And that we begin to look at the development, redesign, revitalization of our own laws, which have always existed. And that is taking place today in the forefront of child laws, for example. And that there can be reciprocity in looking at how to move laws forward that protects us. And that is so that we no longer have missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls and diverse peoples happening. And that's, it's going to take a lot of people to work together, the institutions, to give us space. We talk about constitutional space. We need justice space, that we can have that ourselves to have it implemented. And when you look at justice and the whole system of it, we've heard of many times the injustices, and that there is no real justice for the North, that we need a justice that's going to be helpful to us in the North so that we can reduce the numbers of our persons, our peoples in the cycle of justice, whether it's an enforcement, being charged by police, that there needs to be something what has been spoken to as a presumption of diversion, where it's not necessary to charge somebody for every small infraction that's been seen to be observed by the police force system. And so I think that dialogue and discussion is taking place, but it's not fast enough in my observation, and that we can look at a NAN legal for restorative justice that has been in place a long time. And it's not only at NAN legal that restorative justice as alternatives to the Western-based court system is in place. It's been there a long time. It's been there for everybody, not only for NAN legal or legal systems that address Indigenous peoples and looking at support systems. It has been around a long time. And during COVID, there was a news article where a lady had been raped, and her rapist and her came to an understanding to come together to not go through the court system, but to go through a circle of healing. And that she gave consent for that process to have to take place. And you may have seen the headlines. It was in British Columbia that this occurred. And the question then becomes, that's at the end of the line. I would like to see things move to the front of the line to intervention and prevention, so that we are looking at justice from a holistic way. So I've spoken only to the one pillar, and that is the enforcement part of it. So then I started looking into the second part, which is the judiciary, the judicial system. And that is, it's also seeking to look at incorporating other ways of resolving conflict, not just as win-lose court system where the judge is essentially hears cases and weighs the decisions and comes to a sentencing plan, but it's the opportunity to look at cases to say, this does not need to be in court. This is something that can be resolved through a restorative justice referral process. And that is where we can look at having our own Indigenous justice systems in place, whatever they might look like, that we should have the opportunity still to be in charge and take the lead in those processes as Indigenous peoples with our knowledge and our foundations of laws that we know them from our language and our ceremonies. And so when I move to the next pillar, and that is the corrections. Corrections is in a mess. And I'm going to just first of all say the court system is in a crisis. It really is in a crisis, and that's an opportunity for us to begin to mobilize, to look at ways that we can make changes. And the same thing for the correction system. The correction system has a lot of flaws in it. And we heard about a major flaw that occurred with one of the deaths of a young man who was to be released soon from one of the corrections here in Ontario. And he the information we're receiving is that it was not a hanging by self. It was a crime committed within that institution. And that still needs to be addressed. So that's a matter that's going to the political process for advocacy to look at how to make those changes. So that also needs to change in many ways. We know that there's a major institution coming up down the highway on 61. It's unfortunate that there was no consultation on how to put that institution into place, because when you read the front lines in the newspaper, it seems to be it's going to be benefiting a larger place for housing more of us in there, along with better accommodations for staffing in the institution. That's my personal opinion. And that it really puzzles me as to why cannot there be more of a funds put into the system where we can look at education and prevention to young people, to understanding that these are the ways that we can prevent our children, our youth from entering into, guns and gangs places. I'm going to divert a little bit. I don't know if you were watching the news last night on the elections of Manitoba for the premier and the history that was made with Wabkanu, First Nations Anishinaabe, becoming the first First Nations premier within Canada. And that is a major groundbreaking, I'm going to call it revelation reality that's taking place. And so when he spoke, he said directly, he was speaking to young people that there are ways other than guns and gangs for a life. And I know that it's not always the child's individual responsibility, because as Deputy Grand Chief Anabedi said, our families were disrupted. Our families were broken up during the colonial system and looking at the residential schools, so that its intention was to eliminate all of us. And the other part of it was to eliminate the treaty obligations, and that then we would just be lost into the system. But we are survivors on many fronts. And that, to me, it is about the young people. The young people, the populations of our people are growing vastly. And I think that is where education, awareness, we need to have broader expansion on that, and that we need to be part of the face of the justice system in the ways that we see it in our traditional forms. And that is where we will no longer have to look at how to protect ourselves, protect our sisters, and that I'm just about done here now. So anyhow, I wish that we could be all looking at each other instead of me looking at the back of your heads sitting there. And I do hope to be able to be engaged more with NAN Legal and the staff at NAN Legal. There are 120 staff at NAN Legal, and a couple of them just walked in. We have an office in Thunder Bay. This is where I'm based, but we have offices in Timmins, Sulicote, Kenora, I forget where else, Red Lake. Those are I'll call them the town offices, but all the other offices are on First Nations within the 49 First Nations communities of NAN territory. And that includes multiple programs. It started off as a legal aid support system to improve access to justice for legal aid services support 33 years ago. And we have one staff member today celebrating 30 years of having been there. Heather Bailey is her name. She's retiring in December. So we're going to be honoring her for her contribution. And one of the other ladies that I'd like to acknowledge today for her many years is Sheba Fox. She was there from the very beginning of all of the years of fighting and struggling to have funds to support the Anishinaabe ASCII Legal Services Corporation. So while the legal aid services arm is the smallest of our units now, departments, it was the beginning of the whole NAN Legal Services. The rest of the NAN Legal Office of Staff is restorative justice programs, justice programs. And so that this past year we had to go through organizational change because we need to address how to look at that growth. So in that is a victim witness liaison program. And yes, the terminology is the funding terminology applied by the funders, and that's the only way we can access those funds is to have those titles of victim witness liaison program. And unfortunately, Anne is busy. She's based in Sulakaut. Anne Heller is our manager, and she has also been involved in providing support to the Broken Trust reinvestigation inquests, as well as the inquests that have been held here in Thunder Bay to provide support and have elders come to work and be with family in those inquiries. And that's been very difficult. And Anne and Wilma Carpenter have been providing support to the families through that process as well in that. And there's a Talking Together program that's been with NAN Legal for many years to try and help keep our families together, to keep our children with the families in the families of the community or the families within, urban centers, wherever it might be, just so that we don't have the children taken away like we did for residential school. And now that there are the institutions that are protecting societies of our own through the Tikanagan and others, then it's really important. But I'd like to just wrap up and say that these last 4 years have gone by really fast. Coming from St. Joseph's Residential School, going to high school in Dryden, going to university at Lakehead, going to law school in Osgood and Toronto, working at Indian Affairs in Ottawa for land claims negotiations, being a law professor at University of Ottawa Law School for 3 years, and then going to University of Winnipeg to teach law there, as well as the University of Saskatchewan. I've gone through a lot of things, but I don't see much changing. And that's the frustrating part. The thing that I do believe in, though, is that we have our own ways and laws as we know them, and that they're there for us to learn them. There are, traditional knowledge keepers, elders, those of you who are learning about it's a lifelong learning process to learn about our ceremonies and our traditions and our teachings. And it's not to give disrespect to any form of spirituality. We're all interconnected. We all come from a process of that understanding of our spirituality as we see it and experience it and understand it. And so with that, in the spirit of appreciating and honoring our sisters, I say to you, Kachimigwach.
Thank you, Irene. That's a lot of information. I know there's a lot of staff. I didn't know there were that many, though. I have next on the agenda, Valerie Osheg. If she could come on up. She's here representing Oshki Pamachuan, the Winjack Education Institute. And we just invited her, or the Oshki, to come and share the day with us and offer a few words. Come on up, Valerie.
Hello, my name is Valerie Ojag. I'm from Edmonton First Nation. A former NAN Youth Council member, probably, I don't know how long ago now. Now I work at Oshki Pamachuan as an admin assistant in the Student Success Department. And I just want to say thank you to my bosses for allowing me to represent Oshki today. Yeah, I've been working at Oshki for about a year now, and in the recent months, we've been working towards making our campus safe for students that come to Thunder Bay for their intensive block for 2 weeks. And we are open to more suggestions or even resources, as we're just where we are located is just behind right beside JJ's, and it is a sketchy neighborhood. So but yeah, I grew up here in Thunder Bay, so I kind of know what's been going on around here when it comes to Indigenous people being targeted and losing friends as well at a young age because of the violence that is against Indigenous peoples. But yeah, I just open to suggestions, and you can reach out to me as well. But yeah, it's just personal experiences. I lost friends, and as a two-spirit person, and being more in tune with my identity and just learning about the gender-based violence that happens to our Indigenous youth, people, like everyone. It's heartbreaking, and it's awesome to see that there's so many initiatives and work that are happening all around us and at NAN, and it's just good to see that we are raising awareness to such a hard topic and tragic issue. I don't have too much to say. I don't want to take too much of your time, but I just want to say thank you for having Oshki here, and yeah, you got you.
Thank you, Valerie. And our department had met with Oshki a couple of times. We need to follow up and have some more meetings, but definitely the student safety piece is something we'd be interested in assisting with. And I saw he did enter the room. We have with us now, and I'd like to call him up to the mic here, Chief of the Thunder Bay Police Service, Chief Darcy Fleury. You could come up and say a few words, please.
Hi, everybody. And first of all, thank you very much for the invitation. Nobody saw me coming in, but I'm very happy to be here. And I got to tell you, one of the things that sometimes we often forget about police, well, we don't forget about police's role because it's very front and center as far as where we go with missing women and girls. And one of the things that I wanted to make you aware of is this actually came up last night in one of the forums we had last night, the question about, are we going to continue with the investigations or reopen some of the investigations that are ongoing here in Thunder Bay in the area of 25 young women that have gone missing over the years. And I can tell you, as a matter of fact, I checked into that this morning, and because I wasn't really aware of where this information came from and what you were talking about. But you know, when I checked in this morning with our detective inspector on this, and we do have those investigations open. They are continuous. They never stop. And we always are looking for, you know, information and things ongoing to try and solve some of these cases. And I know some of them are going way back into the 60s even. I had a chance to read over some of the material in different reports that have been put out there as far as the service and the work that we do and the service that we provide to the community. So it is ongoing, it is continual, and it's something that we will never stop doing. We're going to look at ways that maybe we can boost the people that can help us in that area. So that's something that we want to do in the next little bit. I can tell you as an officer and as an investigator and somebody who's been around for many, many years, when you work on these cases, that they never go away. You never forget. And I want to give you a few examples. When I was in the Northwest Territories, I worked on several of these cases. Mary Rose Kajak, Mary Rose Martin, Charlene Catholic, Leona Brule, and Marilla Lenny. And I can tell you from the bottom of my heart, I can tell you every significant, important detail of those cases. And I bring that up because I want to emphasize that when officers take on these cases, you never, ever, ever let them go. They stay with you to the day that you retire and much beyond that, because you're always wondering, is there more we could have done? What else can we do in these situations? And knowing the intimate parts of what happened in those cases, it's a lifetime thing. It'll stick with you forever. I can tell you every piece of where we were on those investigations right up to where they are today. And some of them have become public. Some of them have very close to being resolved based on information and material that many, many, many years later was provided to the police agencies. I worked on those cases when I was in the territories, probably going back to the late 90s, early 2000s. And some of them are just now getting information that's helping them being solved. So we never give up. I really want to emphasize that's one of the most important points. We will not give up. The situation here in Thunder Bay, yeah, there's been lots of criticism over the years on how some of these matters are dealt with, but we're going to focus on some of these and keep them open as far as people coming forward and providing us with some new information and giving us an opportunity to try and resolve some of those cases. So with that, again, thank you very much for inviting me. If you have any questions or whatever, I'll be around for a little bit, and then yeah, I look forward to working with everybody down the road as we manage some of these cases. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Fleury. So we invited some family members of a couple of the individuals that we have photos of on the table there. I'd like to call up at this time Colleen Bolesky, who is the mother of Corey Bolesky. Sorry, yeah, it's right there. Yeah. And she's agreed to say a few words. If you could.
This is my baby, Corey. I'm sorry. My baby was murdered November 1st, 2022. He was at a house party Halloween night. They still don't know who did that to my baby. Corey was he was a strong man who helped people. I just want to thank you for everything else you say about my baby. He's the 13th murder victim in Thunder Bay. Apparently it was 4 people. The 4 people that did that to my baby. Please, if you guys, I don't know, I just want something done, but don't forget about my baby. It's very hard. Oh God, I'm sorry. He's my baby. I have another child, but this is my baby. Always been. He was, when he was full, he was always attached to my hip all the time, and now he's not here. I just want, I don't know what, I just want something to be done about my baby. Oh God. When I look at his pictures, I know he wouldn't want me to break down, but it's hard. I don't even talk about my son. But anyway, I just want you guys to know who my son was. Again, he was the 13th murder victim of Thunder Bay. November 1st was the day that I died. My soul died with my son. But I just hope that things get better for everybody, not just for me, for other victims. But yeah, this is my baby. And this 31 years old, just about 2 months shy of his 32nd birthday. He had one stepson who is still struggling to this day. Still struggling with the death of Corey. Even come to a point where he wants to die. He wants to be with Corey. He's only like 7 years old. But yeah, I'm sorry, but this is my baby, and I know somebody out there knows something. There's got to be somebody out there who knows something or heard something or what. But yeah, we need to put my baby. I need to find out who did this to my son. They not only murdered and took my baby away from me, but they took him away from his son, his wife, my daughter, and all his nieces and nephews. I don't know, this is the hardest thing. I never in a million years thought I would bury my baby or any of my baby. But yeah, I just want to thank you again. We're not forgetting my baby. But yeah, this is my baby. Maybe someday those people I did that to will be caught. I'm sorry. Thank you for listening.
Miigwech, Colleen. It's so very important that we have these spaces and this time to hear from our families, hear from our mothers and our dads whose child was taken. And I thank you, Colleen, for your courage to come here and talk about your baby. And I felt it was really important that we give her this time and space, because there's people out there who are listening. Someone knows what happened. And we also have our chief of police here who, you know, after hearing the words from Colleen, from a mother who lost her child, that he will make this case a priority to find those responsible for taking her baby. So thank you, Colleen, and thank you to everyone for being here to listen.
We also have members of Alex Lawson's family here. Allison, I don't know. Oh, Kimberly, okay. If you'd like to come up, you can all come up together, or and you might recall, hopefully you recall that Alex has been missing in the city since last November. So they're still searching, and actually I think they've rejuvenated, I guess, the search this week as well. So I'd like to have.
Hi, I'm Kimberly Lawson, Alex's oldest daughter. This is my sister Cheryl, and my dad's sisters, Josephine and Sophie. So my dad is still missing. He's been missing since November 27th. And yeah, we don't have any concrete leads on his disappearance. The last known location is still of him leaving his apartment. No one has come forward to say they were with him. It's been tough. Like, it's a nightmare. You know, just waking up every morning, hoping you hear something. And just don't forget about him. This is our third search for our dad, and it's tough because it is looking for a needle in a haystack. You know, we're just going off on ideas that we have. You know, sometimes we take dreams dreams that people have or feelings, but nothing has led us to finding him. We will be hosting a press conference tomorrow. And we've run into challenges too with my dad's case. You know, we've reached out to Crime Stoppers to try and get a reward out. And I reached out to them in June, and it was a lot of back and forth. And, you know, Crime Stoppers couldn't help us with the reward because it goes against some of their policies and the framework, because, you know, we want the reward to, you know, get us our dad back. My dad was part of the 60s scoop, and he led a tough life. He was, you know, I don't think he ever got over the hurts from his childhood. But yeah, and I just wanted to say, you know, thank you to Nan and to Anna Betty and her team. They've always been so supportive of our search efforts. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd just like to thank Nan as well. It's been a rough road for all of us. His children and his sisters, you know, it's been hard, and he was part of the 60s scoop, and you know, I think he always searched for belonging and searched for healing, and I hope wherever he is, you know, he's okay, and I think he is. But then at the same time, I imagine him walking down the road or coming around the corner. Maybe he's went on vacation. Maybe he's somewhere, you know, safe and sound. But I just hope that we'll get some closure sometime soon. Someone will come forward. I hope someone says something, and you know, this has been a tough road for all of us. But thank you to Nan, and thank you for all of you for being here. I wasn't expecting to speak, but thank you.
The search for Alex will continue. The family has set up a space just over here on what's the address again? Okay, 515 Syndicate Avenue North, and as the family said, you know, Alex has been missing since the last the last time that was November 27, when Alex left his apartment, which is right behind the Grandview Mall there. And there's been a few tips here in Thunder Bay and other parts of Canada. But those tips proved that once they were investigated, it wasn't him. And it was a slow process too to get action on some of the tips that the family received in other parts of Canada. And I think that's where at times our our policing system fails because we don't have like a network. Like there's sometimes it's very slow in terms of when there's a tip called in and to follow up on it. So that is something we need to improve upon. And if you want to make any contribution to Alex's family, they'll tell you how you can do that, either to provide some food or a monetary donation, because I know they're not going to give up. They're going to find him. They are going to continue searching until they find him. And you know, if there's any way that you could help, we certainly encourage and appreciate and welcome that. So, and we will continue to pray for him. We will continue to pray for Colleen to find answers, and all our family, our loved ones who have gone on. So Mingwich, and I'll turn it back over to Loretta.
So that, thank you for everyone who had the courage to come up to the mic today. I know not everyone is a public speaker, myself included, but it is an important issue, and we'll continue to bring awareness in whatever way we can. We have lunch is ready, and we also have, if you notice here on the side, a lot of art supplies. You'll see a couple of little felt dolls hanging from the tree there that staff in the Women's Initiatives Department did as a sample. They're faceless dolls, and they're meant to commemorate the many missing and murdered Indigenous people throughout our country and our families, our communities. So if you'd like to, you know, create a doll or two, and everything you need is there. We have hangers there, or we can hang them up for you afterwards. I don't know if there's anything else that, yeah. We will have Terry come up and say a blessing for our lunch, and then we'll get that served to you. And again, I'd like to thank everybody so much for taking the time to be here today.
Miigwech, I just wanted to add a few before I bless the food. I just wanted to add a few words to. We each have. I always tell this to people. We each have different stories. All of us have different chapters in our lives that different losses that we go through. I can relate to the losses that Colleen feels. I lost my son last year, November 10. He would have been 50. He died from a fentanyl overdose on James Street, one of the Limerick places. And he messaged me the morning that he passed, asking me for $20 for lunch. He was at Oshkie. He was attending a social work course at Oshkie. So I sent it to him, and he left me a face, a happy face, saying, "Thank you, Mom." That was my last contact with him. Then he passed away that night. And I often, like, as the months have passed, I've gone stronger. I've gotten stronger. I'm able to talk without breaking down. I'm able to function. I'm able to, and that's with a lot of support. I accept a lot of support. I don't turn anybody down when somebody asks me, "How are you?" Are you okay? And ceremony helps me. I go to ceremony, and we all have different losses. I lost two good friends the past 2 weeks that I'm going to be missing very much. And I don't believe in saying, and they're in a good place. I know they are, but sometimes those are words that kind of fly by me, and the dreams. I believe in dreams. You know, when we have spirit visits from our loved ones, sometimes they come to us in dreams, or they come to other people, and those stories help me. Those are the stories that help me get over a lot of my grief. One elder told me he'd seen my son in a ceremony. My son was a skabe. He was a helper at ceremonies. He helped at sweat lodges. He helped his dad with the lodge. He was, and he had his own lodge later on. And one elder told me that he seen my son in a ceremony near a fire. And my son told him, hey, boss man. That's what he called him. Hey, boss man, look what I can do up here. He held one of the rocks that the grandfathers that goes into the sweat lodge. He held one in his hand, and he said, look what I can do up here. I can turn this into a snowball. And all of a sudden that rock turned into a snowball. And that's the kind of dreams that help me, and happy dreams that I know he's up there helping and being all smiling. And everybody, if anybody knew Thomas, he had a big wide smile all the time. And that's what I remember. That's what I have in here. That's what I carry. And that's what I wanted to encourage the people that are going through losses, different ways. I'm going through something too that I want to do. Is I want to bring awareness to my son, the way he died. I don't want him to be just a number. I don't want him to be just a stat of overdoses in the city. He was my son. He was a human being, not just a number. And that's what I want to make awareness. I'm going to make noise later on. And so this is me. I carry a lot of hurt too. I carry a lot of pain, but I stand before you strong, like you're going to be. You're going to be strong. You know, we all have, Creator helps us. Prayers help us. So that's what I wanted to share before we go on with the afternoon. And I want to bless the food that we're going to eat. And I will be taking this home and make a fire in my backyard this evening and burn this for in honor of the ones that are missing. Miigwech. I'll say a prayer for our food. Miigwech. Miigwech manito. Shonyaka migok dego tipnoden kinak dejon vejogomte. Kinanak nongom wedge so when the man meets him gawi meetchang wege gawi pinda ko nago hat so kan nago tagando boat wabanong shawnong nagabi onong giwet nong kewi no macho chondan chakewat wege ochachako kagi machawat kaya betcheskam ga yuga magwang ek kenda mankin ek noen madwa kinstam giwta penata chakanoen madwa Egiwa matwa nanin westo arch marking agi jabagit na tamitas ekagwits minange gino So, wet is when the make me chim ka we kun se ban to ang no ngagi ka. Miigwech.
Thank you for that, Terry. If we could just get our guests in the room to get up, all the food is laid out in the back there. Help yourselves to lunch, and then our staff and whomever can follow. So help yourself. Help yourself.